The biggest issue we inherit from traditional music theory is the persistent reliance on only 7 note names, despite our system containing 12 distinct pitches. This results in the same sound being written in multiple ways, depending on the context. In earlier times, this system made perfect sense. It was logical, useful, and consistent with the musical language of the period. However, the Western musical language has evolved over the centuries. With the advent of instruments with fixed tuning, such as keyboards and fretted strings, musicians became accustomed to the full chromatic scale as the complete set of available sounds. In this context, the lack of distinct names for the black keys, represented as either flat or sharp of natural ones, became a significant issue in the relationship between sound and musical notation. This problem, as far as we know, was already pointed out during the time of Debussy, but it remains unresolved to this day. One approach employed in music analysis to address the challenges posed by enharmonic equivalence, particularly in the analysis of music from the 20th century onward, is the use of what is known as integer notation. In this system, each pitch in the 12 semitone chromatic scale is assigned a single, unique text symbol as follows. 0 equals C, B sharp, D double flat, and all the possible other enharmonic spellings. 1 equals C sharp, D flat, B double sharp, and all the possible other enharmonic spellings. 2 equals D, and all the possible other enharmonic spellings. 3 equals D sharp, E flat, and all the possible other enharmonic spellings. 4 equals E and all the possible enharmonic spellings. 5 equals F and all the possible enharmonic spellings. 6 equals F sharp, G flat, etc., like above. 7 equals G, etc. 8 equals G sharp, A flat, etc. 9 equals A, etc. T equals A sharp, B flat, etc. Letter T stands for 10. Sometimes a different symbol is used. E equals B, C flat, etc. Letter E stands for 11. Sometimes a different symbol is used. The 12 distinct symbols in integer notation align perfectly with a clock face, serving as a powerful visual representation of one octave within our 12 semitone system. Let's now explore why this graphic representation is so useful for understanding topics where enharmony poses challenges. The first topic, and the simplest, is understanding the characteristics of the augmented triad. In traditional notation, the same set of 3 sounds can appear in multiple forms. However, when we represent these examples on the clock face using integer notation 0, 4, 8, we immediately see the equivalence of the sounds, resolving all enharmonic issues. Note 0 represents both C and B sharp. Note 4 represents both E and D double sharp, and note 8 represents both G sharp and A flat. Moreover, using this graphical representation, we can easily see why, in our musical system, there are only 4 possible augmented triads, unlike major or minor triads, which have 12. Let's explore this using TOTAMUSICA, the perfect software for this topic, as it features a multifunctional musical clock face that allows you to listen while visualizing. When transposing this set of sounds, we find that only 3 additional transpositions are distinct. For example, if we transpose the chord up by a half step, we get the D-flat augmented triad, which can also be spelled as F or A or E-sharp augmented triad, depending on the context. Transposing another half step up gives us the D-augmented triad, and one more half step produces the E-flat augmented triad. After that, transposing a 4th half step simply returns us to the original C-augmented triad, albeit spelled with E as the root. From this perspective, we can conclude that, in our 12 semitone musical system, the set of 3 notes traditionally called the augmented triad, referred to as 312 in Alan Fort's list, consists of only 4 distinct triads. 048 equals C augmented, E augmented, G sharp augmented, A flat augmented, B sharp augmented, and even more different spellings. 159 equals C sharp augmented, F augmented, A augmented, D flat augmented, and even more different spellings. 26T equals D augmented, F sharp augmented, G flat augmented, A sharp augmented, B flat augmented, and even more different spellings. 37E equals E augmented, D sharp augmented, G augmented, B augmented, and even more different spellings. The same kind of thing happens when we consider another traditional chord, the famous diminished 7th chord. Here's some examples taken from real traditional music. And here is the graphic representation of the same chords, spelled as 0, 3, 6, 9 in integer notation, showing the fact that each of the 4 notes can be the root of a differently spelled chord. Finally, here are the possible transposition of this set of 4 sounds called diminished 7th chord, making easily understandable the reason why there are in fact only 3 in total. Seen in this perspective, we can say that actually, in our 12 semitones musical system, the set of 4 notes traditionally called diminished 7th chord, simply called 428 in Alan Fort's list, are only 3. A. 0369 equals C diminished 7th, E flat diminished 7th, F sharp diminished 7th, G flat diminished 7th, A diminished 7th, and even more different spellings. B. 147T equals C sharp diminished 7th, D flat diminished 7th, E diminished 7th, G diminished 7th, B flat diminished 7th, H sharp diminished 7th, and even more different spellings. C. 258E equals D diminished 7th, F diminished 7th, G sharp diminished 7th, A flat diminished 7th, B diminished 7th, and even more different spellings. We began this explanation of integer notation by noting that the challenges arising from the traditional use of 7 note names in a system that actually consists of 12 pitches were already evident to composers as far back as the era of Claude Debussy, born in 1864, approximately 160 years ago. In fact, when we consider the scale that became his trademark, the whole tone scale, the limitations and inconsistencies of the traditional naming system reach their peak. Here, some of the possible notation of the whole tone scale beginning from C. All the previous different notations are in fact referring to the same 6 sounds in our 12 semitone system, the same 6 keys of a piano keyboard. Those 6 sounds in integer notation are 0, 2, 4, 6, 8T. That is, the 6 notes a whole step apart. It goes without saying that this whole tone set uses exactly 1/2 of the 12 available in the system, and that the remaining 6 are still another whole tone scale, or set, or collection. Again, the Clockface displays this concept in a split second with no words. The hexagon 02468T is one of the two possible whole tone scale. The hexagon 13579E is the second one, and every single note of both scales can be identified as the tonic, the beginning, of the whole tone scale that belongs to. The case of the whole tone scale is very emblematic. In real music practice, all musicians, when dealing with this particular musical material, think instantly one of the two possible whole tone scales, making no difference at all between, say, the C whole tone scale, or D whole tone scale, or E or F sharp, etc. In this case, all musicians think already in the way integer notation is implying, either whole tone 0, the one passing on C, or whole tone 1, one passing on C sharp. Integer notation and Clockface are fully exploited in TOTAMUSICA, the cutting-edge software that fully fits a contemporary study of music today in the 21st century. By means of it, we can finally grasp the features of sets that are still not so known by musicians, even though they belong to our musical environment since a full century.